Hello, and welcome to the server edition of Tech Fundamentals brought to you by Emulex. This is Pei-Chin Chang, and thank you for tuning in. We've all heard of servers, but to many of us, they're simply black boxes that we sell. What exactly is a server, and what do they do? Well, a server is much like your desktop, workstation, or laptop, but generally with a lot more memory, more CPU power, and faster connectivity options. Applications such as web, email, and database servers run on these machines. When you point your web browser at Facebook or some other place, your laptop or desktop sends a message out through the network to a server somewhere. The web server running on that machine interprets your request or command, gathers up all of the requested information, formats it, then sends it back to you. Likewise for email. Your Outlook client makes a request across the network to the email server. In this request, it delivers any emails you may have written and picks up any messages to you. The email server looks in its own database, grabs any messages, formats them, and sends the messages onto your Outlook client. There are many different brands of servers like HP, IBM, Dell, and Cisco, but they all fall into three general categories. Rack servers are just that, rack servers. Servers shaped like a pizza box designed to fit into a standard 19-inch wide rack. These servers are all the same width but may vary in height or depth. The server's height is measured in U increments or units on a rack. The smallest is a 1U server, and usually the tallest is about a 4U server. The benefits of a rack mount server are: 1. They fit into a standard 19-inch rack common in data centers. 2. They use standard off-the-shelf accessories like 10 gig network adapters. And 3. In general, they're less expensive than blade servers. Blade servers are custom form factor servers that fit into a chassis, which in turn fits into a standard 19-inch wide rack. Blade servers also have several significant advantages. First, you can generally get more servers into a given amount of rack space. For example, you may be able to fit 8 or more rack servers into 7U of rack space. 2. Blade server chassis eliminates a lot of cabling. For example, you may only have 2 power cables for the entire chassis full of 8 to 10 servers, while in rack servers you may have 2 power cables per server. Management of these blade servers is tightly woven into the hardware. Using a single tool, you can configure servers, update BIOS, launch a remote console, and more. On the downside, they are proprietary. Components designed for an HP server will not work in an IBM blade server. Tower servers are very common in small businesses and sometimes small remote offices. As with rack mount servers, they take standard add-on components. When you dig into the guts of all these different types of servers, they all have a very, very similar architecture. The major components include the CPU or processor, RAM memory, keyboard and mouse controller, video card, storage controller, and network controller. The storage controller allows attachment to internal or external drives and potentially remote drives across a storage area network. For this session, we'll focus primarily on the network controller. The network controller allows the server to connect to the network. For the purpose of this discussion, we can simply think of the network as a switch. Probably the most identifiable characteristic of a network is the speed. Today, most networks are 1 gigabit per second. Of course, everybody wants data to move faster, so 10 gigabit per second networking is starting to roll out. Most large enterprises have already deployed some 10 gig, and as time moves forward, eventually all networks will be 10 gig. Some analyst reports show that 10 gig shipments will surpass 1 gig shipments as early as 2013. It is very common to have multiple storage controllers and network controllers for redundancy and performance reasons. Oh, and by the way, I use the terms adapters, cards, and controllers to refer to the same thing. So why do we care? Well, first of all, Emulex sells 10 gig network adapters. In fact, Emulex is the leader in 10 gig networking. Most servers today, particularly the rack and tower servers, do not have a built-in 10 gig adapter. You may be familiar with the 1 gig controller that is built right onto the motherboard, but in the case of 10 gig, all servers wishing to connect to a 10 gig network must add on a 10 gig adapter. For you, that means whenever you sell a 10 gig switch from Cisco, Juniper, or some other brand, you should also think about the server at the other end of the wire. For every port on the switch, there is a corresponding adapter. Remember, IT admins must purchase a 10 gig adapter for all of their servers that they want to connect to a high-speed 10 gig network. As we mentioned before, blade servers require proprietary add-on accessories such as mezzanine cards. The rack servers and tower servers, on the other hand, uses standard PCIe or PCI Express cards, as shown in yellow above. Vendors such as Emulex will typically use the exact same ASIC on the PCIe card as the mezzanine cards. They do the same thing, just come in different shapes. Note that some 1U servers are space constrained and require half-height adapters. The Emulex adapter you see on the right is half-height because the green PCB does not go all the way to the top of the bracket. Most vendors, including Emulex, will supply a short bracket to accommodate these smaller 1U servers. Emulex, as I said, is the leader in 10 gig networks. We have been certified on all major brand of servers, all operating systems including VMware, Windows, Linux, Solaris, Citrix, and more, as well as all major storage platforms such as EMC, Hitachi, HP, NetApp, Dell, EqualLogic, 3PAR, and more. The reason that we're the leader is mainly due to the robustness of the adapters, the feature set, performance, and breadth of support. In the appendices of this presentation, you will find additional information regarding Emulex adapters and their specific part numbers. So, to make things simpler for you, remember, whenever you hear a customer asking about 10 gig networking, Cisco Nexus switches, or Cisco Catalyst switches, you should think Emulex. Emulex is at the other end of the wire. Cisco is the leader in 10 gig networking switches, and Emulex is the leader in 10 gig network adapters. Last, I want to leave you with one simple question, the question that can potentially double your sales. Whenever you hear those keywords, 10 gig networking, Cisco Nexus, or Cisco Catalyst, just ask the question, how will you connect your servers to the network? Remember, just about every server will need a 10 gig adapter. You ain't done when you sell them just a switch. The customer must buy that 10 gig adapter from someplace. Ask the question, how will you connect your servers to the network, and get them thinking about the rest of the solution. If you have any questions or would like someone from Emulex to jump on a call to discuss networking, drop me a line at the email address or phone number above. Thanks for listening, and happy selling.